Lords, ladies, goblins and giants, the Clash Royale League's best are ready for battle. Today, two top teams from Europe go head-to-head. Second-ranked Team Dignitas, led by the golden-haired golden boy I Am JP, against the magical Spaniard So King, and the top-ranked undefeated cheesy ones, Team Queso. Who is Europe's best? It's time to find out.
Hello, hope you're enjoying your Saturday, and what better way to do that than more action in Clash Royale League. I'm Rich Slayton, joining me is Andrew Guy for two fantastic matches in the European region, and as we get closer to that midway point, these teams are taking a very close look at where they sit in the standings.
Yes, as we get towards the middle of the season, of course, the pressure is on for all the teams, but Team Queso is definitely feeling a little bit of comfortability there at the top at 5-0. Team Dignitas in a very, very close battle for second place with G2. And today, if they take the win, they will be in a strong position in second place.
And you can see these teams fighting so hard for those top 4 spots. The winner, of course, will represent Europe at the World Finals. And you can follow all the action by hitting subscribe on the Clash Royale Esports YouTube page, going to esports.clashroyale.com, and of course swiping over to that Esports tab in your Clash Royale app. And as you said, Andrew, the 2 teams in our first match today fighting for that top spot. Of course, one of them could not lose it today. The other one will make a good step in that direction. It's Team Queso versus Dignitas.
Yeah, if we look at Team Queso, last time they switched up their lineup a little bit in 2v2, and I'm interested to see what they do today. I'm wondering if Soking's going to come back into the lineup or not. He was benched in their last match. And on the other side, we've got Team Dignitas, like we said before, fighting for that #1 spot and really trying to separate themselves from the rest of the pack.
And they've been doing a great job of it so far. 2 very exciting teams who've given us some heart-pumping finishes here at CRL in the European region. And right now, standing by with Christy St. John is one of the men hoping to help lead Dignitas to the top. It is their coach, Ben.
Thanks, guys. Coach Ben, Dignitas on a roll until Donkey Kong had some great deck predictions. I mean, how'd you take that loss, you and your team?
I mean, it's never nice having a loss, but we go into this the same way we prepare for every other team again. It was just a hiccup, bump in the road. We're looking to rectify it.
And Team Queso, undefeated. What are you thinking about the matchup?
Undefeated, but not undefeatable.
Thank you. Back to you.
Big words coming from Dignitas. Undefeated, but not undefeatable. Well, they'll have their chance here in a few moments, Andrew, and of course, they have to set their lineups, figure out how are they going to pick that team apart, and they're going to have to find good card bans, find a way through what seems right now to be an insurmountable defense, and we'll find out what they're thinking when we go inside the war rooms.
Right, boys. Queso, 5-0. Let's make it 5-1. Bans for 2v2. Max?
Is Info Dragon and Tornado.
Good. JP, 1v1?
Thompson and
5-1. It's what we wanted. We've got the decks we want to play. Let's go out and make them 5-1, boys. It's George's first time with us today. How you feeling, buddy? Feeling good? On 3, boys. 1, 2, 3. Big win!
Vale, chicos. Hoy jugamos contra Dignitas. Lo están haciendo espectacularmente bien. Van 3-2. El último partido lo perdieron por detalles. Son muy buen equipo. Solo perdieron el primer partido, que fue el de calentamiento, etcétera. Así que son muy buenos, ¿vale? Primero vamos a jugar el 2x2, que sois vosotros dos. Estrenamos pareja. ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo sentís? Eso, perdón. Cuchi Anthony, ¿cómo estáis?
Te hace bien.
¿Sí? ¿Cómo lo vamos a hacer? Ya sabéis que los bans son Tornado e Inferno Dragon. Era lo esperado. Así que, ¿cómo lo vamos a hacer?
¿Comentas tú la táctica?
Sabuesos, golems y alguna que otra sorpresa.
Y alguna que otra sorpresita, ¿eh? Pero sí, el del sabueso con el que vais a empezar, la verdad es que es fuerte, es fuerte.
Que no te round.
Habéis estado practicando, así que no tenéis que temer nada.
Y Sokin, tus bans son Lápida y Bola. Lo tienes claro, ¿no? De primero el Mega Caballero, ese con Minero, brutal. Y después las 3 mosqueteras con los Hoggies, que son...
Ese mazo es perfecto.
Con estos bans, es que es brutal, es brutal. Y si algo sale mal, te tenemos a ti para el Kino de Hill, más 2 más, que es nuestro punto fuerte. Siempre os digo lo mismo, ¿vale? Si ganamos un set, esto lo tenemos muy de cara. No es nuestro, luego hay que ganar el Kino de Hill, pero lo tenemos muy de cara, ¿vale? Así que confío en vosotros, estáis aquí por algo, ¿vale? Vamos 5-0, vamos a por la vuelta perfecta, vamos a por el 14-0, ¿vale? Pero partido a partido, como siempre, ¿vale? Venga,
por mucho que vayamos 5-0 no hay que confiarse, chavales.
Eso es.
Dale.
1, 2, 3, ¡queso! ¡Vamos!
It is time. This is the kind of battle we all live for. Number 1 versus number 2. Titans of Clash Royale settling it with a duel. Team Queso and Team Dignitas, let it begin with a 2v2 throwdown in the arena.
A duel we have here, but no flintlock pistols. Instead, these guys have 8 cards for each player. 16 on 16 to settle this thing in 2v2. And look what we have here for Team Dignitas.
Yeah, we got Wonka and Max Lemonas. This team has worked together many, many times. This duo, they are 2-3 overall, looking to even up that record. And their opponents, Team Queso switching up the lineup from last time. Belican and Benny, who got swept by their opponents last week. So they're bringing in Anthony and Kuchiku, a duo that we haven't seen yet. Anthony's only made an appearance in King of the Hill so far in CRL this year. So I'm really excited to see what this duo is going to do.
And the ban cards for this entire 2v2 set, Tornado and Inferno Dragon.
Yeah, I mean, Tornado is basically par for the course. The Inferno Dragon making its way into more and more bans because it's the best way to defeat the Lava Hound and the Golem. However, with the 2v2s changing, we've seen more and more Princes be that Golem breaker deck.
Very interesting bans here. Of course, the Latin American superstar Anthony getting a spot in one of our main sets. So it'll be fantastic to see him here. It's Team Queso versus Team Dignitas in 2v2. Kuchiku and Anthony representing the cheese on the top of your screen, and down at the bottom, it's Max Lamanas and Wonka for Dignitas.
Another golden-haired golden boy in Max Lamanas.
And there we go, seeing the Lava Hound come out for Team Queso, so...
Makes sense why they banned the Inferno Dragon.
Yeah, Inferno Dragon off the board. And a very interesting deck developing here for Dignitas.
Yeah, looking down at the cards they have, we see some Royal Hogs and P.E.K.K.A. Really curious to see exactly how this is all going to work together.
Well, interesting, you know, but with the P.E.K.K.A. in their hand, in their deck, up against a Lava Hound, and we can see what else is happening there. Very interesting to try to find a use for that card.
Yeah, and just a second or a hair too early on that snowball. Really want to hit those Lava Pups as well as all the units around it. They just barely missed it.
So, Andrew, you're looking at that P.E.K.K.A. in their deck, and when you see that and see what they're playing up against, does it almost feel like it's kind of a wasted card slot in this matchup? Yeah,
I mean, you know the idea behind it was most likely to take down a Golem, or yeah, I mean, it's got to be a Golem. That's basically the best response to a Golem. If you don't have Inferno Dragon, the P.E.K.K.A. is a really, really great way to cut down the Golem as well as create a counter push. However, that P.E.K.K.A. cannot stab up and hit the Lava Hound.
Unfortunately, no jumping abilities for the very heavy P.E.K.K.A. But right now, some big damage on the right-hand side, and we did, of course, see a huge push on the left with those Royal Hogs. But it's Team Queso responding in kind, now putting both towers under significant duress.
Yeah, Team Queso's really got to feel in control right now. They were able to take that damage. It was the first time the Royal Hogs had come out, so they're probably going to keep the Tombstone in cycle to keep that as a response to Dignitas' best win condition.
And now Lava Hound coming down the left-hand side. They have to feel pretty confident about that right-hand side now, given the amount of damage done.
Yeah, they're probably at a point where they realize if necessary, they can spell cycle out. They'll definitely create a push in that lane eventually, if you know, like just to create pressure, dual lane pressure, and probably take the tower.
Well, you see here the poison now also getting that tower into some dangerous range. Andrew, is part of this choice going to the left-hand side to protect their weaker tower as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if they're trying to stop Dignitas in their tracks, they're going to just push down this lane and create a lot of offensive pressure to create a defensive response.
No spell cycle needed. The right-hand tower goes down with 22 seconds remaining. Ooh. The big question, can Dignitas get through enough to send this thing into sudden death overtime?
Really great snowball there to pick up all those skellies, but still wasn't quite enough to get through. And with that balloon coming in, you basically got to feel like this is wrapped up.
And not going to be enough time. They're forced to defend here and cannot get that other tower down. Yep. The second tower almost goes. Team Queso playing this thing almost picture perfect.
Yes, Anthony and Kuchiku off to a great start. It's got to feel nice when you're trying out a new duo. And here was that excellent fireball on the flying machine. They bring in the miner, and it's just so much for Dignitas to have to respond to. They get a great big chunk taken out of their Princess Tower really early on in the match.
Team Queso this time taking a nice lead in 2v2, and you see the second Royal Hogs push. There's just too much on the board there between you have that second Tombstone still kind of alive as well. So a lot to deal with there. We spoke before the match with Gonzalo Berzosa, Furier, the manager of Team Queso, and he said a big part of their last match that made them nervous were those 2v2 struggles. Some slight adjustments here, and they are off to a fantastic lead in a great spot. Still, the undefeated Team Queso.
Yes, he is an avid believer that starting off the matches with a 2v2 set win is imperative to having that victory. So let's see if they can take it in two.
Rotación de mierda, no hemos podido ni atacar.
Game number 2 underway. Now, to continue Andrew's point, a lot of you at home going, well, duh, Andrew, of course you want to win 2v2. That, of course, it's important, but we've seen here at CRL, not every team has placed that weight on it. Of course, in the North American region, you have Cloud9 that despite really not putting much into 2v2 and to kind of be acknowledging that publicly, they've still had some fantastic success despite their one big loss to Complexity. But here in the European region, you know, the big question, finally kind of getting their feet set on 2v2, Team Liquid, you think that might be a big reason why they haven't been at their best?
Yeah, absolutely, Rich. That's an excellent point you make. And Team Liquid has even admitted that when the season started out, they weren't as focused on 2v2 as were a handful of teams here in CRL. And the more that we move on, we see that the teams that have focused on 2v2 since the very beginning, teams like Complexity and Team Queso, there's a reason why they're undefeated.
I mean, the victory starts at the top, and those are both teams, the two undefeated teams, both with fantastic leadership. Of course, Matt Rutledge over there at Complexity, really running his squad to perfection. And then here over at Team Queso, you have Termiso, who's a fantastic coach. You have Gonzalo Berzosa, Furier, a really great team put together to guide these young men to success.
Yeah, and they've talked about the things that Team Queso does to keep their players. They even have a team psychiatrist that specializes in esports to make sure that if there are ever any discrepancies within the team, they're dealt with and squashed immediately. And as you know, and as well as I know, whether you've done sports your whole life, whether it's comedy, whatever it may be, there are always disagreements with people that you're living with and on team with. And the fact that they manage that so well is one of the reasons he believes they're at the top of the pack.
And of course, don't forget Mad Raider for Team Queso as well. So it's a large staff. They have not just fantastic coaches and managers, but great analysts, and that's been a big part of the Team Queso success. Now, across from them, though, they have a really dangerous Dignitas that also has some great guys. Ben, of course, coaching them. We saw him earlier. Ender also, who has got some really great insight for their squad. So these are two teams, and the reason why they're top at the European region, a big part of that, not just their great players, but great direction from the top.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Great defense here by Dignitas, but still better offense by Team Queso to take that tower down to just under 200 health. Dignitas is going to continue to push that lane because they need to take down the Princess Tower of Team Queso that's low. However, Team Queso now in a great position to counter push the opposite lane, create dual lane pressure.
And this is a nice spot for Queso, especially if they can deal with this next balloon, because they know now that they have control of that lane. We just see the tower go down, and this, at least at this moment, this favors Queso quite a lot.
Yeah, Dignitas is in a very uncomfortable and awkward position of basically having to ignore the Lava Hound and the Prince that are on their King Tower because they have to take down this Princess Tower if they want to make it to the next game, and it doesn't look like they're going to.
They do not have the spells and cycle, just wishing that that lightning on the left-hand side would get down, but that's going to be it. Team Queso's Uchiku and Anthony. Those of you watching in Mexico right now probably aren't listening to this broadcast, but congratulations, your superstar here getting a nice sweep in 2v2. Well done, Team Queso.
And as you see here, it's not really bad defense. They do a great job of pulling the balloon over with the tombstone, picking up the miner with the guards, dropping the snowball for the lava pups. However, it's still a lot of damage done. And I have this question, Rich. It's the question that begs to be asked. If this isn't Team Queso's best 2v2 lineup, I don't know what is, because they did not even break a sweat in that match.
I mean, they have been fantastic. Of course, you know, we've seen Belican be so successful in 2v2 over and over and over again. And that's one of the, I think, that we talk about the value of creating a great team mentality. They have lots of good ways to mix it up, but it seemed like Kuchiku and Anthony were really inside each other's heads, playing perfectly together. And we've talked before about how critical, not just communication, but you know, having a good synergy between players outside of just what you say.
Yes, exactly. The synergy, even that to like mind melding. So now Kuchiku and St. Belican are yet to be defeated in 2v2, and they actually haven't been paired together much, and they keep changing it up, which I love about Team Queso's strategy. So let's see if Dignitas can here take the set in 1v1 and push this game into King of the Hill.
Throughout the history of Europe, great gladiators have decided the fate of empires. That's serious stuff, guys. Now, two seriously great players collide with CRL glory on the line. So King versus IMJP, 1v1 now!
Set number 2 on its way, and these two players are intimately familiar with each other. It is IMJP and So King, Spain versus Spain.
I could not be more excited, Rich. IMJP is proven to be one of the best 1v1 players in all of CRL, and he's proven that through being able to take insane amounts of damage, keep his calm, and then turn the game around. On the other side, we've got Soking, undefeated in 2v2, 1-1 in 1v1, undefeated in King of the Hill. This is going to be a barn burner.
Two fantastic players going head-to-head. Our card bans here, Fireball, and very interesting, a Tombstone ban from IMJP.
Yeah, we've seen that Tombstone can work its way into so many different decks, even Golem decks now. It comes in Graveyard decks, it's in Lava Loon decks. It's such a powerful card that is so versatile that taking it out of the game makes Royal Hogs more effective, all your tanking cards more effective, and it also just messes with so many meta decks.
These two players have gone head-to-head so many times, being regional rivals, and of course both being top players in their own right. And they've both agreed that right now they feel that they've split 50-50. Let's see what they do here in 1v1. Team Queso, Soking at the top of your screen. I am JP for Dignitas at the bottom. And for those of you watching over in Europe, this is a fantastic, big-time matchup of Titans.
So we see Soking playing that bandit. We wonder maybe if we're going to see that Razor P.E.K.K.A deck. That P.E.K.K.A control deck has been so powerful.
Well, definitely showing some signs of that early. IMJP bringing out the Valkyrie. Good to see her getting some more use here as we get the second week of the new update.
Yeah, and we see Valkyrie, we see Mega Minion. We got to think Graveyard, and I'm sure that's what Soking's thinking as well.
So, you know, if we are playing a Graveyard deck, and you're looking at the deck of Soking, oh, there we go, a Poison. Now, that's I was going to ask what the answers are.
Yeah.
There's a fantastic answer if Graveyard does come out.
Yeah, and IMJP, I'm really not positive what Soking is running. I think it's that minor control deck maybe that B-Rad's been talking about.
Possibly minor P.E.K.K.A Poison in some way.
Oh, and then see we've got that Valkyrie Balloon Lava Hound deck most likely here on the bottom for IMJP. Matchup-wise, I'm not 100% positive because Soking has great responses to the Lava Hound with the Inferno Dragon and the Electro Wizard.
Very interesting two decks that are not entirely outside of the meta, but definitely not traditional by any sense.
And the Mega Knight coming in probably thinking that he might have to deal with those pesky Royal Hogs.
Well, no Royal Hogs here. So the Mega Knight does get chewed up, but creates some room, and it's the Miner sneaking through in the back.
Yeah, great use of the Miner there. The minions will clean up, or I mean the Mega Minion will, oh, no it will not.
Wow, the minions get off, and now with just a minute left in double elixir time. The right-hand tower down to 998. Now, double elixir time, of course, Andrew, is great for these big beatdown decks, but with that tower down so low, and what you see defensively for Soking, do you feel like Team Queso's in the driver's seat?
Yeah, absolutely. IMJP even threw up the crying face. He knows that Soking has all the answers to his offensive, offensive pressures, and then also he's got the Miner that can just come in every single time and chip away at his tower.
And that's really, really difficult. There's no real way to piece it up. Oh, wait, will the balloon get one drop? Almost through. The minions do pick it up. Very, very close, but we could get a beautiful pickup with the Inferno Dragon to stop the lock.
And
though we might get a couple of ticks here, though. This gets very interesting now.
Yeah, I mean, IMJP, as we know, is never out of the game, really keeping up the pressure, and Soking has to stop this right now with only 10 seconds left.
Not quite getting the pickup on the Miner with the Valkyrie in the back is IMJP, but still putting pressure on Soking. So really this is kind of a dance now. He has to play a good enough defense to pick up those Miners as they sneak through.
Where's the Electro Wizard? Where's the Electro Wizard? Oh my goodness.
So close. Oh my god. And again, we've talked before so many times about how that balloon can sneak through so frustratingly. But now again, IMJP has to make these pickups properly here. And he has to keep that Miner off his tower.
Yes, and you know that Soking is thinking, I have got to do everything I can to stop that balloon and somehow still create pressure on this tower. And he's going to keep sending in the Miner, but the Miner is going to take a little while to do it. Whereas one balloon bomb and it's game.
But that was
wow,
brilliant.
There it is.
That was unbelievably brilliant play by Soking. He had the Bandit in front, and when the Valkyrie, the answer, picks that up, he slides the Miner in the back as far away from the Valkyrie as possible. That was some next level play by the man from San Fernando, Spain.
Yeah, and we see that very first breakthrough here. You think that maybe IMJP is going to be able to stop it with the great poison coming in. He's doing a lot of damage on that.
And here we go, getting that end. We didn't quite see the development of that play where it was the Bandit, but the Valkyrie being used to pick up the Bandit. But that, again, and this was the hard part, that he put himself in a tough position, IMJP, having to defend and pick up that miner every single time. Did a great job of it, but he gave Soking enough information to make choices.
Yeah, and that's miner play 101, is if you've got a ground troop coming in the front or you want to send in troops in the front, send your miner to the back. It makes their unit have to pick between the two, and usually it goes to the miner so your troops up front can do more damage. In this case, it didn't. It went to the other card, so the miner was left protected, and that was it for IMJP.
Dignitas with their backs to the wall, 1 game away from the sweep. Will Soking close this thing out, or can IMJP do it one more time?
Soking throwing out the good luck here, and like you said, Dignitas back against the wall. A lot of Team Queso logos on that left side scoreboard.
So both players taking things a little slower. Reminder one more time, it is Fireball and Tombstone banned for the potential 2 more games here in 1v1.
And we see 2 cards that could actually make up the same deck of that Rascal's Princess bait deck. I mean, obviously it's too early to tell, but those cards are both used in it. And the Hunter definitely says no.
Interesting. I'm trying to think of how many times I've seen the Hunter and the Rascals paired together here at CRL.
Yeah, I don't think a lot, but Rich, as we move on in the season in CRL, we've seen more and more of these really off-meta decks trying to catch their opponents off guard with certain win conditions or certain responses to win conditions that wouldn't normally be in that deck's archetype.
And the Hunter does not get a single shot off, so that's a fully healthy Inferno Dragon coming down the right-hand lane for IMJP.
And right now we're going to see what kind of responses Soking is going to have for the entire... Great use of the skeletons, guys. 1 elixir for 4. Excellent trade. That's a pro play right there.
Although that Poison doing a great job picking up a lot of that. So right now, beautiful decent defense for Soking, but also good responses at the river for IMJP.
Yeah, you can feel it. These guys are both in the zone. Looking at him, they are just locked in. They know, IMJP knows that he has to take these next 2 games.
Again, they've played together across from each other so many times, and it does make things very interesting. Of course, IMJP says that, with the meta shifting, it does make it harder to play the same person. You don't necessarily have a lock on them. And again, he's the one who believes that they are pretty much even 50-50 in their overall experience. On the cross from that, Queso saying that they think that the fact that they have such a fantastic analyst team, that they prepare for the team, not the player, gives them an advantage across the board, including in this 1v1 matchup.
Yeah, absolutely, because if you game for a player-specific strategy and they change up their strategy, all of a sudden you're kind of caught with no preparation, whereas if you prep for a team and the type of archetypes that they run and the type of decks that the team prefers, it's a much better situation. As you can see, it's been paying off for Team Queso.
Hogs versus Hogs up top from Soking, this become very classic Royal Hog 3 Musketeers deck. And the Poison now, as you're going to see, IMJP will continually use that on whatever side the 2 Musketeers go down.
Yeah, and Soking may have a slight matchup advantage here just based off of having a little bit more firepower. And right now those Hogs are getting to the tower, and the Hunter's in the back taking out that Rascal Boy. That's a lot of damage.
So while he might have some of the better matchup here, being down to 562, definitely gives Soking more options here as we move into sudden death overtime.
Yeah, at 562, you can't imagine he's going to do anything other than play very, very strong, cautious defense and try to spell cycle him out. Great use of the Royal Ghoster. You want to drop him behind the Rascal Boy every time to get both of those girls in one swing.
The Bandits played right at the river. A lot of elixir to spend very aggressively, and now down at 360. It looks like Soking can sit back, throw down some poisons, and take this thing.
It looks like Team Queso is going to pull even farther away from the pack. However, I mean, yeah, no, as much as IMJP is a legend here in the league, he just does not have the responses and the defense, and that is going to do it. You can hear the celebration of Team Queso.
Very interesting, Andrew. I want to ask you about that bandit there. Do you think that bandit was a misclick, or was that him kind of not the bandit? Sorry, the Rascals.
Oh,
they're at the very end playing the Rascals in the bottom left corner. Now we're seeing here. Let's go. We'll come to that in a moment. But seeing here, it's that perfect kite you were talking about, getting that Inferno Dragon out of the way.
Yeah, and those small plays creating a 3 elixir advantage is really huge in the long run. As you can see, he basically came with the same downhill push over and over. It was Royal Hog supported by either a Bandit or maybe a Royal Ghost behind it or a Hunter, and IMJP just did not have the answers 2 games in a row for Soking. And Rich, get back to your question about the Rascals. I don't know. I was looking at them the same thing. It might have just been like one of those kind of like, I'm done. I'm just going to play a card.
That was my question too.
Yeah, good job. You win. So as you guys can see here, Team Queso takes it. They sweep Dignitas, a huge victory in the EU, and it puts them at 6-0.
Unbelievable. Kind of an insurmountable lead now here in the European region. Team Queso striking out to, now at this point, we're talking about playoffs. We're reaching the middle point of the season, and it's a 14-game season. Of course, remember, each team plays each other team 2 times, so you play 7 teams 2 times each. So at 14 games, 6 victories already. I mean, it's very possible a 7-7 team could make it into the playoffs with how tight things are.
Right.
But at the very minimum, it feels like Team Queso is now possibly 2 games away from clinching a spot at the playoffs.
Yeah, I can't imagine these guys not making the playoff. They would literally have to have the worst run in, well, it's CRL's first season, CRL history, but you understand what I'm saying.
Well, again, at 6-0, Team Queso now has to be riding high, feeling great. The confidence, the momentum is in their pocket. And a big part of that, of course, is the guy who just showed off some fantastic, almost picture-perfect play in 1v1. Christy St. John is standing by with Soking.
Thanks, guys. Soking, at the beginning of this match, Coach Ben said undefeated but not undefeatable, but not today. I mean, Queso swept this entire game in 2v2 and 1v1. I mean, is this the perfect lineup?
I really like how we played the match. We train a lot for this, and I'm really happy with my partners. The performance is really nice, and I'm pretty happy.
And you've played IMJP a lot before, but the difference this time is you have Queso and this team of analysts and everyone behind you. How's your team helped you through this?
They helped me a lot with not only in the game, personality too. And GP is a really strong player. It was so intense. He almost got me in the first match, but I'm really happy that I could have won the 2 matches.
In control the entire time. It's what we've come to expect from Team Queso. Back to you.
Thanks, Christy. Once again, there's no movement on the standings at the very top because Team Queso stays undefeated, although a slight shift happening now with this loss for Dignitas.
Yeah, we look at the standings here. You can't go any higher than #1, Team Queso at 6-0. But with that loss, it moves Dignitas into 3rd place. They are no longer tied with G2, who is now 3-2 and in 2nd.
Of course, if that match went too quickly for you, don't you worry. There is more Clash Royale League on its way right now. It is G2 Esports, led by Canario, up against Fnatic, looking to move their way up towards playoff contention.
One thing I love about the CRL, one match ends and another riveting rumble begins. Next up, Fnatic and the Flying Dutchman Dion aim to escape the bottom of the standings. Across the river, rising star Canario looks to push G2 Esports to the top. Gentlemen, let the elixir flow.
Our second match today features 2 teams that really have their fates in their hand. G2, the opportunity to take sole control of that 2nd place spot, whereas Fnatic has an opening to move up with some recent losses from big name squads.
Yeah, we look at G2 coming off of a win over Misfits, who finally claimed their first victory over Team Liquid, and their opponents, Fnatic, is coming off of a loss to SK Gaming, looking to bounce back here and move up in the standings and also kind of start to separate themselves from the rest of the pack.
Fnatic with a fantastic roster of young upstart players looking to finally get their footing. Of course, G2 Esports still without Faye, who even Canario says might be their top player, despite the fact that he is playing absolutely lights out so far.
Yeah, the fact that Faye is supposed to be their 1v1 and King of the Hill specialist when Canario has yet to lose a set in 1v1 begs the question, is Faye actually better?
Well, there's no doubt that he's good, but right now it's been the Canario show for G2, and he is standing by with Christy St. John.
Thanks, guys. Canario, so I was talking to Fnatic before the match, and they say they look to counter their opponent with player-specific bans. So what are you looking to counter your opponent with? How are you studying them?
Fnatic le han dicho antes que van a intentar hacer bans contrando a los jugadores, o sea, que a ti y a tus compañeros. ¿Qué vamos a hacer nosotros en este caso?
Pues nosotros vamos a ir jugando lo que sabemos porque somos muy buenos con eso, creo yo. Y bueno, cuando venga Fate también no nos van a poder banear lo que quieren, ¿eh?
So in this case, we're going to just play the same thing we've been doing until now. We're very good with it, and for the next match, when Faye is going to be here, nobody's going to be able to ban anything.
All right. Well, thanks so much for talking to me. Back to you guys.
G2 sticking with their plan for the moment. Of course, it's been working very well for them. Across from them, though, a team in Fnatic trying to figure out how to go up against a team that has been surging so heavily, and a big part of that are the choices they're going to make right now inside the war rooms.
All right, guys. Today we're playing against G2. For the first set, the bans are Fireball and Lava Hound. We ban Fireball, they ban Hound. We're sending in Asuchini and Dion to take on Fairchu and Shure.
Nice.
For the second set, we're throwing out Lemon Tea. It's his debut. He's going to be playing Canario. They've banned Fireball, and we've banned Miner. So we've been preparing for this for about a week. I think we're ready.
Yeah.
So let's just give them all we got.
Sure.
Hoy la estrategia es bastante simple, chavales. Van Chabocho de nuevo, repetimos. ¿Cuál será el plan, Ferchu?
Golem.
Y si por lo que sea algo va mal,
Doble golem.
me parece delicatessen. Canario, por tu lado hemos baneado bola de fuego. ¿Cuál sería tu plan?
Golem.
Y si por lo que sea algo se tuerce,
Golem ariete.
golem. ¿Qué puede salir mal? Nada, ¿no? Sí, tú también, golem y más golem. Pues ya está, golem army. G2 to golem.
Both teams have had their time to confer, to plot, to strategize. And as you can tell, I've had time to read my new synonym book. But enough about me. Let's get to the arena. G2 and Fnatic, send your 2v2 combatants into battle.
Just be happy, folks, that no one bought the King a rhyming dictionary. Synonyms good enough, though, to set this thing off. For 2v2, it's Dion and Asuchini up against Sheer and Fairchu.
Yeah, Dion moving from 1v1 back into 2v2. He was one of those players that seemed like his win condition had been exposed, so maybe he can come back into 2v2, regroup, and take the win here for Fnatic. On the other side, we've got Sheer and Fairchu doing a great job last week, taking that match. However, you don't really expect to see a different 2v2 lineup while Canario's been performing so well in 1v1, and they're without Faye.
And he's been doing very, very well, of course. And our card bans here, Fireball being banned by Fnatic, and a Lava Hound ban from G2.
Yeah, very, very common bans for 2v2 here. We see a lot of double spell bans. Lava Hound probably being the most banned single card, unit card that is in 2v2.
You know, Coach Kyle for Fnatic, many of you might know him previously as Lucy, was saying that he thinks that G2 is putting card bans out to force them into certain lanes, and he's trying to plan to be unpredictable here in 2v2. As we start this thing off, G2's Fairchu and Sheer at the top of your screen, Fnatic's Dion and Asuchini at the bottom. Andrew, as I was saying, G2, the Fnatic thinking G2's trying to force them in certain directions with their card bans, and taking Lava Hound off the board, do you think that means, hey, we expect you to play gold?
I definitely do, because if you look at the cards here in Fnatic's hand, they are literally built around beating a golem, and whereas G2 decided to just play the golem despite the bans.
So we'll see what Dion and Asuchini have in store. You know, this is a team that's taking themselves very, very seriously, even if other teams haven't looked at them with the same level of trepidation as they might look at, for example, a Team Liquid or a Queso.
Yeah, and as we've seen as this season has developed, preconceived notions about teams. You know, we talked about Team Queso earlier today, and their manager slash coach was talking about how Team Queso RIP was a meme going around before the season started, and now they're 6-0.
Well, of course, that team did lose a lot of big players. Many of those ended up, of course, on the self-run Team Liquid. But right here, you know, you have a team in Fnatic that chose to go a slightly different route. Of course, one of the big players they meant to have here wasn't able to get over, at least not yet. So they've been going with Dion and Asuchini and Lemon Tea. And they decided to go, hey, look, we see guys who've stood out at the Combine. And that's important, not just because they played well there, because they played well in front of cameras, in front of a crowd, and they felt that that would give them some more confidence going into a stage like CRL.
Yeah, when the stakes are high, it's really important to be able to perform at the level that you can when there are no stakes at hand. So, Fnatic still really trying to find their stride, hit it, if you will, here at CRL, but they're not doing too bad, and right now they're actually tied up and actually taking the damage lead over G2.
We are entering into double elixir time here very quickly, and Andrew, we're seeing the Golem deck, of course, from Sheer and Fairchew, but, you know, with the Inferno Dragon and the P.E.K.K.A. in the hand of Fnatic, do you feel like they have a good answer to this as we go further down the game?
Absolutely. They got Inferno Dragon, they got P.E.K.K.A., they've got Lumberjack, and of course the Tombstones. It's really a deck that you've got to imagine was built to beat the Golem, the double Golem.
The Rocket gets the Executioner off the board. They might feel a little bit sad they didn't also pick up some damage on that Golem there as well.
Yes. Yeah, but if you have to pick and choose, of course you're always going to go with the Executioner. Ideally, hitting all of them is the way to go.
So we do have a double Prince here, of course, not Prince, Dark Prince, but two Princes, because we have two players throwing him down as we are getting closer to our sudden death overtime. It is Fnatic in a good position to change things, but here in kind of an elixir deficit as there's a Golem push coming down the lane.
Yeah, and that healthy Dark Goblin right behind it is going to eat through that Inferno Dragon, but the Inferno Dragon did do enough work to really help Fnatic out here.
But look at what's coming down the pipe. Not only do you have those Golemites tanking, but now you have a Prince and guards, and behind that, a Dark Goblin really not getting taken care of right now.
And they're doing such a good job, G2 is, of defending that Dark Goblin, which could be the change in the entire game here. Not being, that is it. That is it.
Wow.
What an incredible job defending their highest DPS troop. That one Dark Goblin ate through so many different troops. It was really the game changer in this first set.
And you can see the look on the faces of Sheer and Fairchew. They know that they got through there by the skin of their teeth. Let's look at that first big push, and they get past with the poison, taking the guards and the Tombstone down and get a nice chunk of damage out here to open up the game.
Now here's the thing with that new Golem Prince deck is that and your opponent is going to use so much elixir defending against the Golem, and then you send in two Princes, which is what happens right here, and also happened right before this replay, and it eats through your opponent's P.E.K.K.A., which is the best response to your Golem, that and the Inferno Dragon, while that Dark Goblin, that one little Dark Goblin with a half a tick of health, just doing work.
And we've seen how critical that is, Andrew, both with things like the Princess, Dark Goblin, Magic Archer. The longer they stay on the board, the more dangerous they become in a lot of ways.
Right, and that's like pretty common knowledge, of course, but it's really about how you keep them alive. Units don't just stay alive forever based off of luck. It's about defending them, and they did an incredible job defending that Dark Goblin.
Fnatic, did they show their hand here in this first game? Do they have something different set up for game number 2? And a reminder, your card bans here, Lava Hound and Fireball both off the board, and now it's Miner to the tower for G2.
We've seen exactly how effective that Miner can be here in 2v2. Just being able to get in and chip, especially if you both are carrying the Miner, that damage really, really adds up over 3 minutes.
And choosing to stay fairly fast, it looks so far, is Asuchini and Dion. But we are seeing a change of pace from G2.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they're going to switch up their decks much. However, G2 already recognizing that they might be playing the same decks or just playing cautiously, not allowing that Executioner to be rocketed, dropping it in front of the Princess Tower.
And the Rocket getting through and taking out both the Mega Minion and some significant tower damage. And it's Asuchini and Dion playing a very similar style, looking for kind of the same cycle they had last time around. And that's so frustrating, a just barely alive Valkyrie taking care of your wonderful Prince counter.
Both of these decks appear to be kind of a tank buster deck, and then their win conditions being the Royal Hogs and the Miners.
So many frustrating cards for that P.E.K.K.A. here on the board coming down from G2.
Yeah, the P.E.K.K.A. is really great in 2v2 if your opponent's running a Golem. However, if he's not, it's so easily distractible, especially with Tombstone being so powerful here in the meta. P.E.K.K.A.'s almost become useless in matches without that Golem to kind of drop it on.
Not just Tombstone, but also with 16 cards, there's almost always a cheap, fast answer to distract that P.E.K.K.A., who has a very short attention span.
Yes, whether it's the Tornado, even if you drop a defensive Miner just to kite it over for a second, the Ice Spirit, there's just so much to keep her at bay.
And a nicely played Magic Archer picking up the Executioner in the back, taken out by the Prince, but definitely did his job there in the early seconds. So now that we're about 12 seconds into double elixir time, down at 11:58, we know that both these teams carrying some big spell, but so far it's been Fairtrue and Sheer who seem to have made better use of them.
Yeah, great job of those two gentlemen in placing the tombstone over in a different spot, avoiding that poison and picking up those Royal Hogs.
Now, okay, here we go. A little bit of rage down to kind of get those Royal Hogs on the tower, but they're not going to get a whole lot done. But will the Magic Archer clean up here enough? It will not. And now things looking very dire. We're getting close to rocket range. Just a couple of more ticks here with that poison.
Two poisons. You see again the miner making such an impact, really the difference maker in this match. It's crazy to see how many different types of win conditions you can have here in 2v2. Honestly, as long as you can defend what they're sending down the lane and you can get miners down over and over and over, you can win the match. Miner poison them out.
Not close this time around. That first one, razor thin there near the end. A lot of change, a lot of lead changes back and forth. This one, though, it was really G2's Sheer and Fairtrue in control the entire time. And this was the end. You know you have your defense has been stalwart. You can get that poison and the miner on there, as you said. And now it's just wait for Rocket to recharge. Don't make any crazy mistakes and take that 2v2 victory.
Yeah, Fnatic didn't have a lot of options to pick up that miner immediately. And now it had the ground troops, but it didn't have an Ice Spirit or Electro Wizard to retarget it immediately. And Fairtrue and Sheer now on a 2-match run here in 2v2 sets. Great job by them. Now moving on to 1v1.
1v1 coming up, and G2 very close. Remember, we had a big-time loss earlier today from Team Dignitas,
yes.
And that opens this thing wide to a possibility for G2 to now close this thing out and secure second place. Let's get into our head-to-head 1v1 set.
The time has come for bare-fisted brawling, for agile fingers to fight. The Dark Horse, Lemon Tea in one corner, Rising Star Canario in the other. Drop me a GG in the chat if you're ready to go. Gentlemen, on to the arena.
Well, you got a GG from our chat here. We are ready to go for this 1v1. It is Lemon Tea coming out for Fnatic up against Canario.
Yeah, Lemon Tea here, #1 at the EU Combine, went 8-0, and he needed to basically work on developing his different type of metas and archetypes that he could dominate with in 1v1. It's his debut, and he is very excited. His opponent, Mr. Canario, 4-0 in 1v1 sets, 4-2 in King of the Hill with an overall head-to-head record of 12-3. This guy is almost completely unstoppable. Lemon Tea has quite the matchup ahead of him.
And for our card bans for this entire set, it's going to be Fireball and Miner coming out as the ban from Fnatic.
Yeah, we've seen Canario have a pretty decent amount of success running Miner, whether it's in a Miner P.E.K.K.A deck, Miner Control with Mega Knight. I think that they're just not wanting to have to deal with that. And then, of course, for G2, that's just a safe ban, you know.
Well, I was talking with Coach Kyle before this matchup, and they said part of their card bans for Canario was to limit his huge deck pool down. Right. We'll talk about that more in just a moment. For 1v1, it's going to be Canario for G2 at the top of your screen, Fnatic's Lemon Tea at the bottom. And continue that conversation, Andrew. Coach Kyle from Fnatic was saying that Canario in their research has an over 30 deck pool that he pulls from. And so part of their ban choices were more to limit his deck pool to a more manageable, more maybe predictable style.
Yeah, so if you're going to try to game your opponent, it makes it much easier with 15 as opposed to 30 decks, but clearly the amount of talent that Canario has with very many versatile decks makes him such a dangerous player here, and it's shown here in 1v1 and King of the Hill.
Prince will get 2 swings on that tower, so an early lead here for Canario. The Battle Ram, though, almost getting there. A nice play between the Log and the Baby Dragon to pick it up.
And already with his very first couple interactions, you got to know that Lemon Tea is already in his head a little bit. Canario somehow got his first Prince to his Princess Tower and completely defended his counter push with a Baby Dragon and a Log.
You know, you were talking about deck versatility, Andrew, and that's one of the things. Oh my gosh, we're going to get King Tower activation here as well.
And a perfect use of the Mega Minion. Excellent timing by Canario.
Canario still playing perfect. One of the things that Coach Kyle talked about with Lemon Tea after that big standout performance at the Combine, that main reason why he hasn't been in 1v1 yet was just getting his deck versatility up, making him less predictable, and that's what he's hoping to be here. But right now, it's Canario who seems to have his number.
Yeah, and we've seen here in CRL so much that if you have a particular deck archetype and your opponents are aware of it, they will do everything they can building decks around your archetype to just strictly counter it, and it's actually paid off a lot for people that are doing that research.
Canario happy to take a little bit of damage here.
Happy-ish. I mean, that's a lot. I think it's a little bit more than he wanted.
And now we are getting to the big elixir numbers, so Canario possibly about to start a huge push here. Might that be a golem to be followed up? And there we go,
definitely a
just
golem.
as I say it.
And you're thinking that Lemon Tea is really hoping at the P.E.K.K.A. Exactly. Wow. We need to speak a half a second quicker both, because that seems like the best response.
Now, interesting, Canario putting that golem there in front of the King Tower. Do you think that he meant to pick up that flying machine and just had it a half second late?
Yeah, probably. That's probably the idea behind it, is he was just trying to mitigate any more damage, because, as you can see, 645 is not a good place to be in, especially when your opponent has a P.E.K.K.A. to cut down your golem. So now, a Canario who was in commanding position the entire match with one battle ram and another exchange finds himself at a decent deficit.
Down to 645, his left-hand tower, as we are 23 seconds away from sudden death overtime. You know, it's starting to look like maybe that idea of trying to limit Canario's deck choices is paying off here for Fnatic.
Yeah, I mean, they probably wanted to pin him on Golem based off of what Lemon Tea is running here. It is a great counter to Golem. You've got the Battle Ram to create dual lane pressure, which means your opponent cannot support their Golem push. And on top of that, you've got the P.E.K.K.A., which basically destroys the Golem.
And nice play by the P.E.K.K.A. to put it all the way behind the King Tower. Some people might have put it earlier, worried about their Battle Ram interacting perfectly with the Prince, but Lemon Tea knows that interaction, and now the P.E.K.K.A. meets the Golem at the exact perfect spot.
Yes, he knows that the #1 job of his P.E.K.K.A. is to stop the Golem. It's not about picking up the other troops and stopping maybe a Prince rush. It's about just countering the Golem, and it's doing a wonderful job of that for Lemon Tea of Fnatic.
Yeah, the P.E.K.K.A. taking care of the Golem and that next Prince. So now we are in sudden death overtime. Things starting to get very, very interesting here. Who can break through? What kind of adjustments might Canario make here to try to get this victory?
I mean, Canario is basically begging for himself to have an incredible, incredible defense where most of his troops stay healthy and then create a strong counter push with the Prince out front. Whereas Lemon Tea now knows he's in the driver's seat because he's got such a great counter to that. Wow.
And
no that's going to be the game right there. Canario somehow just misses the pickup on the Royal Ghost.
There's just, maybe he didn't have anything in his hand to pick it up. I mean, the only reason you think that he would put down 2 flying troops with the Royal Ghost is that he was out of cycle and had no good responses.
Yeah, that was a real tough for him. And this is kind of the turning point in the match, is when Lemon Tea really realizes that he can defend almost anything Canario sends his way.
Unbelievable. Lemon Tea making his 1v1 debut in style, taking his first game, and really kind of showing up strong here.
Yeah, and we look at it, he drops 2 cards immediately, Rich, and we can't see what the cards that he had in hand, but you've got to be correct in that he drops a Mega Minion and a Baby Dragon, didn't have the guards in cycle, probably didn't have the Prince, and he just had no response. Great recognition by Lemon Tea, knowing the cycle of his opponent, recognizing his biggest weakness, and that's the Royal Ghost, comes in, slides in, and steals a victory from Canario.
The 19-year-old Frenchman showing up here for Fnatic. Canario has not been in this position many times before, not here at CRL, but he is a pro. Can he reverse this sweep? Your card bans one more time, Fireball and Miner, and again, that Miner ban looking smarter and smarter here as we go into game number 2.
Yeah, you wonder now that Canario might feel that he was gamed a little bit. What is he going to change up? And with Lemon Tea seeing that pump come down, you immediately think Giant 3 Musketeers or something basically with 3 Musketeers. Could be Royal Hog 3 Musketeers.
Ice Golem as well, that pump getting poisoned immediately. There's discussion about, like, do you poison the first pump? Do you wait for the second pump? A lot of people think you poison the first pump if you're expecting 3 Musketeers, because you'll have it back in cycle again by the time they actually appear.
Yeah, and with that now, in having Tornado, he's recognizing that he has a good response to get these all in one lane. He's comfortable poisoning that pump every time. Now he doesn't have to worry about being in an elixir deficit, and he doesn't have to worry about a dual lane push.
Look at the way Lemon Tea, though, picked up that Baby Dragon to keep those Musketeers alive a little bit longer. The Battle Ram doing double duty, both playing as a mini tank and getting damage here.
And Canario is now forced to use that poison. This is already looking horrible for Canario, and Lemon Tea's so riding high right now. He knows, hey man, I can play my pump comfortably, I can play 3 Musketeers comfortably. He doesn't have his best way to punish. So he's going to drop a Golem, and I think that Lemon Tea's going to defend this, pump up, and take the game.
You know, we've talked about the deck versatility issue coming up for Lemon Tea. Before CRL even started in our research, we were looking at Lemon Tea, and 3 Musketeers, Minor Pump with that Battle Ram is a deck that he really, really loves and has, in ladder and challenges, had a 90% win rate in the couple of weeks coming up to CRL. So he kind of mixes it up first game, second game goes with what he feels.
Yeah, excellent heads-up play by both of these guys. Lemon Tea recognizing that Poison's out of cycle, so he can drop all 3 Musketeers to mitigate most of the damage. However, Canario using that Tornado and Log to kill the Musketeers has now turned the game around again.
Wow, unbelievable, and just recognizing how much Lemon Tea was in trouble when it came to his elixir count at that moment. Canario showing why he has been one of the best, but now opposite lane will probably take this tower down fairly easily. Yes, there we go.
Yes, and Canario's allocating the Mega Minion to stop the 3 count, knowing that he really wants to support his Golem push. And now Lemon Tea, who was in a great position in the beginning, catching Canario out of cycle, has now got his back against the ropes.
And that Prince is going to be so hard for him to deal with. There's not a lot of really great answers to get behind that Golem and stop that Prince.
Yeah, and that half a second late drop on the Ice Golem, allowing the Baby Dragon to get on top of the Musketeers, coupled with the poison, that is going to be a game.
And the 3 crown coming on the left-hand side, unbelievable. Canario looking like he was, and you can see the look of relief on his face. Lemon Tea can't believe it. He seemingly had this thing in the opening moments, but also look at the elixir counts right now.
Yep.
Even though he's taking that tower down, you know, a lot allocated there, kind of surprising. You know, it seemed like he had this thing in hand, and Canario just kind of outplaying him here in the second stage of the game.
Yeah, Canario did a great job of honestly recognizing that the poison was a slight overcommit defensively, but it was the only way for him to keep his tower alive, which allowed him to create this push, which really turned the whole weight of the game. It shifted the momentum from what seemed like Lemon Tea basically having a gimme to Canario taking that with emphatic dominance.
So Lemon Tea showing up in the first game, second game, just being inches away from sending this thing to King of the Hill. Canario still on that fantastic. Now he is 13-4 overall in head-to-head games. Can he make it 14-4 right now?
All right, hopping in here to our very last game of 1v1. Lemon Tea performing very well at CRL, but that's the Combine. This is much different when you're on the live stage against a man who is yet to be beaten in 1v1.
Yeah, Lemon Tea, though, his head-to-head record still right now 2-1, so he's played pretty well. He's played pretty smart. Just a couple little hiccups there in game number 2. And the question is, does he now go back to being more unpredictable here in game number 3?
Yeah, I mean, starting off with the Royal Hogs, it really demands a response. We see the guards and the log coming down, so, you know, maybe we think Quavaloon.
Mega Minion coming out as well, and Lemon Tea now with the Royal Ghost.
Yeah, maybe another 3 Musketeers deck coming from Lemon Tea.
Very possible, and there is the Prince once again. Canario really enjoying the use of that card so far here in this 1v1 set. Very nice pickup, though, with the Skeletons and keeping a fully healthy Magic Archer behind the Royal Hogs coming down the lane.
This could be a good amount of damage.
The Magic Archer not getting tower, but definitely to keep that Baby Dragon from being too impactful on his own territory.
Yeah, Canario recognizing he needs to offset the Baby Dragon from the tower to protect it from that Magic Archer.
So now as we reach the midway point of regulation time, it is Lemon Tea out to a sizable lead on both lanes, but we have been here before, Andrew.
Yes, we have. You and I love to commit to what seems like, and honestly probably what the whole entire room is thinking of the winner's going to be, but these pros can really do anything in those final moments, and we've seen Canario and Lemon Tea both take advantage of each other's opponents' mistakes.
Lemon Tea going opposite lane with the Magic Archer gets eaten alive by that poison, and also that's the tower they had in more danger as well.
Yeah, and a quick log cycle. Another Golem coming down. You see that with the Prince thinking probably that it was going to be that new Golem beatdown deck.
Immediate response is the Royal Hogs, and it almost seems like with playing a Golem, it feels like Canario had enough, had 6 elixirs so quickly again. That's because we were in double elixir time.
Yes, yes, and that P.E.K.K.A coming down, this is going to be really interesting to see how this very first interaction goes with that Prince. Those skeletons not quite picking up the Prince's charge, which he knows what Lemon Tea was going for.
So the P.E.K.K.A picking up most of that, the Magic Archer cleaning up some of the action on the back end. And again, that's the issue in double elixir time. Part of why the Golem is so much more valuable is it's not as easy to push the opposite lane and take advantage of that elixir deficit.
Yes, and this is where the Royal Hogs deck really takes control over the game. Being able to dual push both lanes, making your opponent allocate so much elixir to defense makes it almost impossible to go up. However, Canario somehow has such incredible elixir management that he's still able to keep those golems up. But you know another Royal Hog push is about to come down the lane.
We are in sudden death overtime, and there's a ton riding on the next potential 3 minutes. Not only is Lemon Tea fighting for Fnatic's life to keep them really in the running as we reach the midway point towards our playoffs, but G2's Canario could seal a spot at number 2 and place them in a great shot as we move into the second half of the season.
Yeah, and a great job of Canario there, kind of recognizing that his tower was going to survive, thought he could put more pressure on Lemon Tea's tower, but Lemon Tea defended so well that now Canario is in spell cycle range.
And now, again, the Royal Ghost almost does it again, taking that right-hand tower down. All we need is a little bit here, and the Tornado keeping Canario's right-hand tower alive, the Magic Archer not getting on. You know, we haven't seen the final card. There it is. It's a big spell and a great timing. Lemon Tea not playing that until the very end, and he gets the victory. The 19-year-old Frenchman showing up for Fnatic in the clutch, taking down a man who many has said is having one of the best performances overall in CRL.
Yeah, and this is exactly when I said, I right before this, it said, you know he's going to push the opposite lane with Royal Hogs, and he does it. Lemon Tea keeps the pressure up. The Baby Dragon just isn't a good enough response. Canario allocating the Tornado there, trying to make his push happen, ended up being just a little bit too much elixir on offense, not enough on defense, and Lemon Tea pushes this to King of the Hill, Rich.
Unbelievable. Such a fantastic way to make your 1v1 debut.
Yeah.
And you know, we were talking with Coach Kyle again about that deck versatility, and we saw in the second game he went back to a deck that he was comfortable with, that he was well known for playing. It didn't work out. He switches it up in game number 3, takes the victory. Now we're going to King of the Hill. And of course, each team now will nominate 3 players. Each player gets just 1 life. The first team to eliminate all 3 players from the other side takes the set and the match victory and takes 1 step closer to those World Finals. And of course, have to find out their new lineups, new card bans. Can Coach Kyle make that call one more time, or will G2 sew this thing up and secure second place? Let's hear inside the war rooms.
All right, guys, so we made it to King of the Hill. I'm going to throw out our lineup up here. So first, we have Asutrini. Second, Dion. Third, Lemon Tea. The bans are Miner from us and Fireball from G2. All right.
Vale. Llega aquí en Hill. Hemos baneado bola de fuego de nuevo, ella ha baneado de nuevo minero. Tenemos el mismo 1 contra 1. Canario, era el que se ha preparado más este tipo de estrategia, así que vas a empezar tú. Vienes con confianza absoluta, así que nosotros tenemos más confianza aún así en ti. Canario, Ahora, en el caso de que Canario no ganase, Sir, te toca. Te hiciste 2 en el otro King of the Hill. Como te llegue, te haces los 3. Nada de 2 otra vez, que luego se nos lía. Nada. Y ya, bueno, si estos 2, yo qué sé, se parean y se caen, Ferchu, eres The Clasher, ¿vale? Eres el que va a cerrar. En caso necesario, pero no es necesario. Así que, tranquilos. Canario, olvidando ya el 1 contra 1, vamos para adelante.
Vamos. Fnatic and G2 have battled with equal force, matching Fireball with Fireball and Golem for Golem. For Fnatic, a win now could change everything. Will G2 allow it? Let's conclude this epic story with King of the Hill.
The lineups are set, the bans are made, and coming out first for G2 is Canario.
Yeah, Canario coming out first against Asuchini, and you got to wonder if Canario in that war room was just thinking, I need to get back out there, I got to redeem myself. And on the other side, we look at Lemon T, who has now earned himself this closing position after that dominant 1v1 performance.
Will he even be needed? Who knows? And of course, we have a brand new set of card bans for King of the Hill. Fireball banned by G2, pretty standard. And looks like Fnatic going with the same idea with that miner.
It appears that Fnatic has found Canario's kryptonite, and that was the game plan, was to eliminate the miner and make it so that Canario had to pick a certain type of archetype to stick with. And you saw that Lemon T and Fnatic had gamed for that, and they were so ready for him.
G2 shooting to get that second place spot secure. And then, of course, Fnatic trying to work their way up with that opening right here in King of the Hill. G2's Canario, top of your screen, Fnatic's Asuchini at the bottom. And to clarify just a little bit more the stumble that I had there, look at the records right now. Dignitas now at 3-3, SK at 3-3, Allegiance at 3-3, Team Liquid at 2-3. Fnatic with a win here would move to 3-4 and be very much in the mix with these top teams.
Yes, absolutely. This is a really big day for them, and a great job by Canario picking up that Goblin Barrel. Goblin Barrel coupled with Sparky. Rich, what is happening?
Well, Asuchini is one of the top Sparky players in the world, the first one to hit 67-10 in terms of his trophies with Sparky. So, you know, if there's anyone I'm not going to question on proper Sparky usage, it's this guy.
Yeah, and Asuchini, knowing that Giant Sparky is one of his favorite combinations, Canario here has a P.E.K.K.A. that could be a really brutal response to Asuchini if he does have that Giant in hand.
That pump staying really healthy, and a second one goes down in the other corner here for Canario.
This is not a good feeling for Asuchini, really not even having an elixir advantage. Now with 2 pumps on the field, this is going to be an uphill battle for the next 3 minutes.
So Asuchini now staying still for a moment, trying to figure out his plan. It's the Skeleton Army. We have not seen a lot of that card here in CRL, and it hasn't been fantastically successful here either.
And another pump comes down for Canario. You know he's going to respond with the Ice Spirit and the Goblin Gang again like he did before, and this just seems like a really bad place for Asuchini to be in.
And now also we're seeing the arrows not popular in challenge play, of course very popular on ladder with the minion horde being so big. But not a lot of appearances here. So now we're seeing 2 cards in the Skeleton Army and the Arrows, and actually 3 in the Minion Horde that you don't see a ton of in competitive play.
Yeah, they all have a bait aspect to them in the sense that they all are cleaned up by spells pretty cleanly. The Skeleton Army, we haven't seen it all because there's so many responses to it, and Log and Zap are in so many different decks. I personally don't think it has a place in CRL right now.
And now a third, you see there's 3, one of them finally goes, and it's the 3 Musketeers deck. 3 pumps down at once for Canario, really feeling confident here on his side.
Yeah, and there's that Giant. You know that Canario has the elixir to drop a P.E.K.K.A. in front of it and a Battle Ram in the opposite lane, and that is why he is really in a commanding lead. However, Asuchini doing a really good job of splitting things up on the right-hand lane, getting that Giant to the tower, and keeping those minions healthy. I'm actually shocked.
But look at this left-hand tower going down, so the big question is now, can he drop the right in these final 20 seconds? And he does, so we are going to probably see a sudden death overtime, but with Asuchini's right-hand tower down to 555 and a big commitment on the left, he better make some good choices here.
Yeah, Canario there just misplayed his defense a little bit, making his P.E.K.K.A. so susceptible to those that minion horde. Really probably the reason that Asuchini is still in the game.
So question here now is, what does Asuchini do to distract that P.E.K.K.A. or at least keep him from taking that Sparky down? The minion horde will do some work, but it is a big swing. And remember, they were with the tower down, that Goblin Gang could land
and that
right
Giant
on
is
top.
tanking. He's going to try to do the 3 Musketeers in the pocket. Is it going to work? Is it going to work?
And it does!
Wow.
Unbelievable. Such a close. Again, Asuchini showing us that while there was a little off meta, some cards that weren't traditional, nearly stealing this thing from Canario.
And we see this very first Goblin Barrel pickup, or actually, excuse me, that's the second pump pickup by the Goblin Gang and the Ice Spirit. And then right here we see Asuchini nearly turns this entire match around. Canario doing a great job recognizing, got to kill the Sparky, but wow, do those Goblins do damage. And a move that us amateurs love is that 3 Musketeers in the pocket, but it does work on the pro level, and you saw it right there. Canario catching Asuchini off guard.
You know, you got to wonder if Asuchini should have been expecting Three Musketeers in the pocket just a half step late with that skeleton army. If that skeleton army met them on time, we might be having a very different conversation right
Absolutely,
now.
Rich. Absolutely. And it could have been one of those things where it's such a move that is so easily counterable, and you've all of a sudden wasted 9 elixir that maybe Asuchini wasn't expecting Canario to overcommit like that.
Game number 2 up next for Fnatic is Dion. Dion back in a head-to-head matchup. His overall head-to-head win rate only at 4 and 6 right now.
Some of the rumblings around here at CRL have been that Dion's win condition is the graveyard and that people have figured out a way around it. However, starting with Royal Hogs, it looks like he got the memo and he's going to try to switch things up.
So the Royal Hogs getting on there, doing some good damage to open this thing up so far. Now, I didn't double check here, but I believe that this is Dion's first appearance in King of the Hill. Of course, Asuchini and Lemon Tea have both made some limited appearances.
Yeah, I believe it is, absolutely. And we see the Ice Wizard, the Tombstone, and the Hogs. You never know, Dion could still have that graveyard in hand.
Not impossible. Very nice work there with the Tombstone, Ice Wiz, Tornado combination, picking up a lot of danger from Canario.
See that pump come down. Canario could be running the exact same deck as the first time with the 3 Musketeers and the P.E.K.K.A.
It certainly does look like it, Andrew, because I think that most of these cards so far, especially with the Battle Ram as well, are the same. And yeah, we saw we saw, of course, that Goblin Gang Ice Spirit pickup on those Goblin Barrels last time around.
Yeah, and with no spells out other than that zap, you got to imagine the last card is the poison, so he's going to be running the same thing. Dion, if he is running Graveyard, is not in a great position to be in. However, if he isn't running Graveyard, I'm very curious to see what those last 2 cards are. Could be 3 Musketeers.
Very possible.
Oh, nope. It's just a control deck. It's just a control deck with the Royal Hogs win condition.
And you know what? This is actually not dissimilar to, I was showing you my attempt at making a 2.4 Hog Cycle deck. Remember, I was trying to show
right.
that. And this is a Royal Hogs version, not dissimilar, but so far working to much better effect than my attempt.
Yes, and Dion just missing the Tombstone there. He does take the tower. However, you know that he fills that missed Tombstone, really giving Canario a chance to come back into the game. However, Dion pulling ahead.
Whoa, and look at this, just letting those skeletons get on that left-hand tower. Canario in a lot of trouble here, having lost 1 tower and both his remaining in significant duress.
Dion just eating through Elixir right now, leaking, wondering what the play is, so he's going to cycle a log, knowing that he's got to defend this P.E.K.K.A. 3 Musketeers push that's coming, and a great Tornado.
The question is, can he stick them right there and keep them in the poison? And not quite. It looks like he will get one of them all the way down. And a big push on the left-hand side now. So with 23 seconds left, Dion needs to make some great defensive choices. Can he get a Tombstone on the way?
He's not going to stop that. No, he's not. There's no way. Allocating that Tornado was a really last chance, last dish effort. And now he's got a huge push coming down the right lane with a moderately healthy P.E.K.K.A.
The P.E.K.K.A. is going to get at least 1, maybe 2 swings here on the tower. And there we go down to 19-10, so into sudden death overtime. Now it looked like it was going to be a game in Dion's pocket, in tight contention between these 2 competitors.
Yeah, and you got to wonder if all that wasted elixir while Dion was trying to make a decision was the reason why he finds himself in this position. I think he wasted maybe 2 or 3 elixir in that moment. That is a lot of defense. That's a Tombstone.
And there he goes, putting the poison a little bit further ahead to make sure it cleans up this time. But now a Battle Ram on the right-hand side. Does he have a response to stop it? It will not get the full swing, but he will get a couple swings from the Barbarians. This is getting very, very close, people. These Royal Hogs, these might be the most important thing here.
Nothing to stop him. And that's going to be it right there.
Wow, the poison doing its work. The Royal Hogs getting in, and now we're getting a few more ticks from the poison. I think, no, it's going to stop, so we need one more log to finish this thing.
There it is.
Wow, Dion getting some redemption here in King of the Hill, taking the victory and toppling Canario.
I love it. Dion takes a step away from the 1v1 set, goes and tries his belt, hit 2v2, struggles a little bit today in it, but then comes in King of the Hill with a great performance, and you see this big downhill push he has with the Ice Golems, the Royal Hogs, and the Mega Minion, just nothing in Canario's hand to stop it.
Dion getting his first King of the Hill victory here, and in in exciting fashion. Again, making it really interesting. You know, you're talking about that P.E.K.K.A getting loose, and that looked like it could have been the game right there.
Yeah, Dion was able to keep his cool, defend as best he could, knowing that he didn't have to save, or that the King Tower wasn't going to be taken. And now we have Sheer coming in for G2, going up against Dion, who is now having his very first King of the Hill appearance and win.
Fantastic work by Dion here. The question is going to be, will we ever see that graveyard? Or is he just going to say, nope, you're not seeing that from me again? And we're going to find out right now in match number 3 of King of the Hill. The G2 Sheer at the top of your screen. It's Fnatic's Dion at the bottom. Remember, Fireball and Miner, your ban cards. And that Miner ban feeling like it paid off right now for Fnatic.
Completely. And Canario is probably wondering what happened today. Despite having one great performance in King of the Hill, he has not performed at his regular level.
Well, on top of that, you just have Fnatic. You know, you can say that Canario made some mistakes, but really I think it's more that Fnatic has stepped up here today and played at a sort of a new clip than we've seen from them.
Yeah, the strategy, again, outside of these battles rooms, this stage is proved to be so imperative, especially for Fnatic today. I'm very impressed by them being able to game Canario, someone who seemed almost indestructible here in CRL.
Look like Dion maybe running it back one more time. Had so much success last time around, figured why not do it again?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that he needs to switch that deck up, and as of right now, he's got a decent matchup. However, those Royal Hogs being out of cycle, he cannot push the opposite lane. Now he's got to allocate all of his elixir to defense.
Yeah, very tough. You know, we talked before about the time to take advantage of that golem push at the opposite lane is during single elixir time. I think he's got to feel bad not having that opportunity in this moment.
Yeah, he's definitely, I'm sure, a little bummed by it. And the Prince showing up in so many decks, you never know when you see one. It could be bait, could be golem beatdown, could be many different iterations. And these Royal Hogs are going to do a great job on that tower, but this push, actually, he's doing a pretty good job at stopping it.
And there we go.
Yes.
That's what he knew. That's what he saw.
And we should have known that as well, Rich. Seeing that he's running the exact same deck, him not allocating a ton of elixir defending means that he had something up his sleeve, and it was the Tornado. King Tower activated.
Dion playing very heads up right now. G2 has got to be frustrated because he just keeps on making these plays at a different level here, and now moving into double elixir time has a significant lead on that left-hand tower.
I mean, up until the last 2 matches that Dion played in, I believe that he was 4-2 in overall record in games in 1v1. It was just the last 2 matches he had, he struggled, and that can turn your record for the negative very quickly.
And here we go, taking the tower down and now putting the King Tower in harm's way as well. So the big question now with 37 seconds left, can Dion defend this push well enough to keep us from going to overtime?
I'm not sure. That Ice Wizard getting taken down quickly is going to be a problem, but he can maybe cycle back around to one.
That Tornado pulling it up into harm's way.
Great Ice Golem to kite the Prince away. The biggest threat that he had after the Golem is now on the other side of the map.
All right, so the poison, it's a race now for the tower. Looks like, though, it's not going to happen here. Dion, the well played coming from Sheer, and just like you said it, Andrew, getting that Prince out of the mix, probably all the difference.
Yeah, that was an incredible heads-up play. You can see it on Dion's face, the smile. He knows he just not got away with one, but really earned that victory with a lot of excellent plays, incredible defenses. You can see right here, this is that first Royal Hogs push to get in and really establish him in the game, giving him a cushion throughout the rest of the match, knowing that he'd had so much damage done on one tower. And then, of course, the NATO activation to the King Tower, all the more damage to stop the next Golem push.
Look at that pull. That is as far away as that pull can possibly happen because the Prince was on the far right-hand side of that bridge. But the Prince gets out of the way and gets distracted there by the Tombstone as well. Dion playing some of his best Clash Royale here in King of the Hill.
And now G2 finds themselves with only Fairchew to stop. And Fairchew's overall record in King of the Hill is 1-3. So maybe not their best closer, but you never know. It's still early. He hasn't had a lot of opportunities to be there. Maybe today he can pull the reverse sweep.
We'll see what happens. Is it going to be Fnatic rising up the ranks, or will G2 stay alive one more time here in our 4th game of King of the Hill? Another note with Miner being banned here, Andrew. Fairchew does like playing Mega Knight Miner Poison.
Oh, absolutely. Now, he hasn't had the greatest amount of success with it, but he does love that deck. And he has beaten Azili's in King of the Hill. Don't forget that.
So Fairchew, definitely a talented player in his own right. Now here in a tough spot. He has to win back-to-back to save this thing for G2. And of course, if he can get through Dion, he still has Lemon to use, feeling so confident today.
Yep, and it looks like we're going to see a double Graveyard deck here. We got the original, or not original, but the one that popped up in the previous meta with the Cannon Cart, Ice Wizard, Tombstone. Most likely going to have a Tornado in there as well. And then Fairchew running basically the same deck. It could be a mirror matchup, honestly.
Very possible, showing shades of that so far. And kudos to Dion to switching it up and going, you know what? I am the Graveyard Master. Let's see what you got. But the poison in response, can't feel good to see that out there.
Yeah, and you'd think that Dion probably has a poison in his hand as well to respond to Fairchew's Graveyard. This is going to be a very interesting match. You've got the Graveyard Master going against someone who's probably gamed and strategized against him running Graveyard.
And this is interesting. We've had this conversation before, Andrew. With Fireball banned, you got to expect that the poison is the most likely big spell to be in your opponent's deck.
Absolutely, and that's why, again, when that is banned, Graveyard immediately becomes less effective.
So it's almost like a Fireball ban is almost like a hard counter to a Graveyard in a certain way.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. You know, there's so many things that come into play with card bans, and again, not to harp on Canario, who is such an incredible player, but Fnatic doing their homework and figuring out a way to use a ban to basically pigeonhole him into one type of archetype. It's just incredible strategy.
Well, I mean, I don't know if Canario get down to one archetype. He is so wildly versatile, but at least
30 decks,
yeah,
Rich.
30 decks down, maybe take him down to a 15-20 deck range. So you're still gambling against one of the best out there, but at least bettering your odds. And here we go, and again, it's that Graveyard getting picked up here. You got to wonder if I'll get Graveyard both directions. So this is going to be a very, very interesting game for this King of the Hill set.
And really what I believe this is probably going to come down to is who can create the best offensive push without Graveyard being used on the person, without the defender using Graveyard on their own Princess Tower. You know what poison on their own Princess Tower.
Yeah, if you can try to get poison out of cycle potential by forcing a defensive poison, that would be nice.
That is a much cleaner way of saying what I was trying to say.
And here the Cannon Cart getting taken out in the back now might be a big question of who can get more damage from their non-Graveyard troops as well.
Absolutely. I mean, that's really it. It's chipping away without the Graveyard and then being able to catch your opponent out of cycle and utilizing the Graveyard. And right now, Fairchew is doing a great job of playing against Dion, the Graveyard Master.
So here we go, Dion trying to find a way onto tower, but getting picked up very well. His Cannon Cart by the other. So Fairchew playing very solid right now against the Graveyard King.
Yeah, he absolutely is. Dion forced to use that poison again. Going to clean this up very easily, but there's still a couple hits getting through with those Skellies.
And remember here, Dion is now not just one game, but one tower away from sealing this thing for Fnatic Esports, so he has to really be hoping. And now a lane switch, this is a big part about Graveyard.
I was wondering when that was going to happen, and right now it just did. He's going to get a ton of damage with that Cannon Cart locking onto the tower, but now he's got to make sure he's got enough to allocate to defense.
That left-hand tower down in significant danger.
Nope.
But here we had a big problem. The Cannon Cart gets a lock on the right-hand side. Poison now
Double
being...
Cannon Cart.
This is going to be a lot of trouble here. Then one more shot. There you go.
Wow.
Dion taking the risk does not pay off.
I understand Dion needing to switch lanes, recognizing that he was not going to be able to break through on the right-hand side. Fairchew was just playing too strong, outplaying him, actually, and this is a great lane switch, as you can see. The Cannon Cart locks on, but now he has no elixir to defend this healthy Valkyrie, Ice Wizard, and Cannon Cart, plus the Graveyard, and then you see another Cannon Cart come down.
Just too much coming down that right-hand side to stop it in its tracks. And that's it. Dion, though, you got to feel good. Still went 2 down to get to this third one. So Dion doing his job, but now it all falls to the shoulders of Lemon Tea. Can he recreate the magic he had in 1v1?
I mean, talk about a day to debut, essentially, in 1v1. You take the set over Canario, and you are the last guy, the closer, the anchor in King of the Hill. It's Lemon Tea, and it's Fairchew going head-to-head for the very last game.
Can G2 secure that number 2 spot? Will Fnatic roll up those rankings? It all happens right now. One game for everything. G2's Fairchu at the top of your screen, Fnatic's Lemon Tea at the bottom, the band cards, Miner and Fireball, and this is for all of it. And this game doesn't just decide, the set doesn't decide the match, but this game might be a chance for both players hold their team's future in this season in their hands.
Wow. If there wasn't enough pressure before, Rich, there definitely is now.
Well, they have their headphones on.
Flying Machine Electro Wizard, we could be seeing some iteration of bridge spam.
Very possible. We have not seen, I don't think we've seen Lemon Tea play that variation of bridge spam yet here. He's played some Miner Poison, but of course Miner's off. We saw the 3M Pump and Ram from him before.
A Graveyard.
Interesting choice here.
You know, actually, I saw Sir Tag running a Graveyard deck that was just like this, and I've actually tried it out in a couple challenges. I actually had a lot of fun and a really good turnout with it. It's a very strong deck.
But what do you think about another Graveyard deck here again with knowing that Poison is probably going to be the card?
Again, just because your opponent has Poison doesn't mean you're not going to beat them with Graveyard, but you're right, it makes it so much more difficult. And they know as soon as that first Graveyard is used that they only hold their Poison to respond to your Graveyard.
So an interesting battle of wills and wits as we move to the midway point of regulation time. And now it's Graveyard versus Graveyard again. So we kind of have a run back of the last game, and the question is, can Fairchu recreate what he did against Dion?
But it looks like Lemon Tea may not have a poison, or he just didn't have the elixir for it. He wanted to spend it differently. Fairchu getting a good amount of damage on that tower.
It's also possible he wants to support his Graveyard with poison, because we are now getting up into the 7-8 elixir range, so he could be preparing a big push of his own.
Yeah, poisons are going to do a great job of cleaning up tombstones and archers, obviously, but Fairchu still has that Valkyrie, which does great against Graveyard.
Valkyrie might be slower, but she still does swing in a very large arc, and while we do get down to 1897, doing a good job of cleaning up a lot of those skeletons.
And we're going to see a big counter push here coming from Fairchu, supporting that. You know the Graveyard's going to come down, and Lemon Tea doing a great job stopping him right at the river. However, he's still going to break through.
And the poison will clean up some of that, but a lot of damage here, definitely more than Lemon Tea wanted. Now down, one more swing of the Valkyrie too, down to under 700 hit points. Lemon Tea in a pretty tough spot here, as we are just 22 seconds away from sudden death.
Yeah, forced to drop that E-Wiz right on top of a Valkyrie and a Mega Minion is never going to be good for your poor Electro Wiz.
And now drawing over to the side, getting the Valkyrie away, but she is still tanking for the moment. The Poison and the Graveyard. The Poison now defending against the Graveyard, and there we finally see it. You gotta wonder why Lemon Tea held that back for so long.
Yeah, you really do, especially because Graveyard has been the reason that he's probably going to lose this game. You'd think you'd use that Poison a little earlier on. Save the Elixir, not used E-Wiz for defense, and use the Poison.
And now here comes a lane switch, hoping to put pressure there.
Just too little, too late, Rich. I mean, I understand wanting to switch lanes, but as you can see right here, he's got a healthy Ice Golem and a full Graveyard coming down.
And we do have some defense against it, but the Poison will do it, and that is it. Look at the elation on the face of Fairchu, knowing he was in a tough spot and pulling it out, taking the final two players down for Fnatic and keeping his team near the top of the standings now, really securing their place here in CRL.
And you see this great defense by Lemon Tea, but however, it's not enough. He just doesn't have enough. He drops the Electro Wiz down. You wonder why he didn't drop a Poison in the back and more troops up front. Probably just a misplay. You never know what's going on in someone's heads when all these lights are on him, but G2 with just 3 players dominating and taking that win over Fnatic.
No Faye, no problem here for G2, and when he comes back, it's going to be frightening. The team continuing their run of terror here, and now today, after the changes that have happened, the action, they are really now becoming one of the teams that you need to beat to be successful here.
Yeah, I mean, Team Queso moving to the very top of the standings with the loss of their opponents today, moving them down. This is a great position for G2 to be in. They are feeling that top 4 spot as a comfortability place. Now it's just whether or not they can get to that very first position.
Well, he didn't just close out King of the Hill, he also won the 2v2. Fairchu right now standing by with Christy St. John.
Fairchu, you had a tough spot coming in there needing to defeat 2 of Fnatic's players to take that W. How'd you keep your calm and bring it home?
Tenías una situación complicada teniendo que ganar a 2 y si perdías nos íbamos a casa. ¿Cómo mantuviste los nervios?
Pues a ver, no me quedaba otra que ganar esto Así que, pues, con la experiencia que ya tengo en los presenciales, pues, la he utilizado en esto y pues me ha salido lo que me ha salido.
And there was no other way than winning this if we aim for the top. And with my experience in tournaments, I brought my nerve to come and just bring it home.
And speaking of winning and aiming for the top, you not only won this match, but you guys are sitting pretty in the standings. What does that mean for you?
Pues no solo que hemos ganado, sino que estamos bien en standings, estamos segundos en este momento. ¿Qué significa eso para nosotros?
Hombre, pues mucho. Nosotros optamos a quedar top 1, así que esta victoria era muy importante, no podíamos dejarla escapar y a seguir escalando en la clasificación.
It means a lot because we couldn't let Team Queso go, on the top, and it means that every match that we go, we are closer to the first place, which we want to win.
Team Queso definitely needs someone to fight against, and you'll be fighting against them very soon. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Christy. Again, you can't say enough about what Fairchew did today, going up against the Graveyard Master, beating him with Graveyard, doing it again in the final game of King of the Hill, everything on the line. And now, while there's no movement, securing that second place spot on the standings.
Yeah, as we look now, G2 is at 4-2, whereas Fnatic has moved to 2-5. And as you said, neither of them moved, but they really have started to separate themselves from the middle of the pack. One in G2 for the positive, and honestly, one in Fnatic for the negative.
As we reach the midway point of the season, the race for those top 4 spots getting tighter and tighter. Hearts pumping higher and higher. And of course, you can follow the action by sitting and subscribe on the Clash Royale Esports YouTube page, going to esports.clashroyale.com, and of course, swiping over to the Esports tab on your Clash Royale app. We will be back for more action in the EU on Tuesday, September 18th, here on all 3 of those places. Come and check it out. For Andrew Guy, I'm Rich Slayton. We'll see you right back here in the arena.
Bye.
What a glorious day. What splendid excitement. It does my heart good to see Clash Royale League combatants compete with such honor. The victors claimed victory with such glory, and the defeated displayed tremendous grace. In all my years, I have never seen such grandeur as that offered upon the battlefield of the CRL arena today. The harumph of the prince, the song of the Valkyrie, the roar of the crowd. There is no end to the excitement in the Clash Royale League, which is why you must subscribe to the Clash Royale Esports channel. And remember, baby dragons are cute, but they also spit fireballs. Believe me, they hurt.